Grayson's grades are back for another year at 97.3 ESPN.com. And Scott Grayson was live yesterday at Lincoln Financial Field. Scott, and obviously good atmosphere, it seemed like, for the opener. But I guess a lot of people pretty surprised at what they saw specifically from the rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I think, everybody went in not expecting him to, stink up the joint, but I don't think everybody expected him, me included, to have the kind of composure he did. He did not look like he was shy for the moment in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the poise at the line of scrimmage, the way he seemed to control everything, never looked like he got too high, never looked like he got too low. There was certainly a lot to be impressed with Wentz when you think about the fact it was his first game and he was only named the starter 8 days before that. I mean, he definitely won over his teammates that he may not have had going into the game. He had them by the end of the game. And
yeah, was that a theme? Really looking at, Scott, was that a theme after the game? Was that a theme? Because I saw a story about Malcolm Jenkins, who was very shocked and almost not happy that Bradford got traded. And then I saw an article yesterday that said how he admitted how surprised he was and that, hey, maybe he was wrong to be disappointed by this. So was that a theme after the game? The veterans talking about Wentz and how impressed they were?
Yeah, that I did take away that from after the game in the locker room, and it's interesting you mentioned Malcolm Jenkins because it's rare that I don't go talk to him after a game at some point because I love his honesty and I love the way he tends to spin things. And he says it the way he sees it, and he was very impressed, very surprised. Was a word he did use in what he saw out of Carson Wentz, and I think. These veterans who don't have too much time left in the league, the window's closing on them having the chance to, to experience the playoffs or to try to win a Super Bowl. And, not saying that's going to happen this year for this team. It's one game out of 16. But there's a lot more for them to be excited about, these veterans, and seeing how this went together and how it came out. So I think he definitely won over some of those guys maybe he didn't have going into the game.
Hey, you gave Carson Wentz an A for your grades, but there was somebody that you put higher on your list, and I opened up with him as well, and that was the coach, Doug Pederson.
Yeah, I just felt like Doug, and you look at the way that the beginning of the game, I was sitting there hoping the Eagles would play defense first just to let the game settle into under Carson a little bit. But they got the ball first because the Browns won the toss and elected to defer. And I love the way that Pederson scripted the opening drive. Now, you look at it and had Ertz not made that one-handed grab. We're not talking about how his first drive ended with a touchdown. But, Wentz put it where only Ertz could get it, and Ertz got it. And, the way that Pederson scripted that opening drive to me was a thing of beauty in that, it gives me optimism not only for Wentz but for Pederson as a head coach because it was also his first game. And those are the kind of things that I wanted to see and start looking at in terms of Pederson. How does he handle a game? And particularly the locker room. He has these guys. And Jordan Matthews said something yesterday that rang true with me that I think sits with a lot of these players. Doug not only played in the league, he played in this city, and he understands what these players are going through day to day, trying to play here. And they respect him for that. I think he's got a lot more respect than Chip Kelly ever had here.
Interesting. Scott Grayson was live yesterday inside the Eagles locker room. Grayson's grades are all posted at 97.3ESPN.com. On Friday's show, Scott, we talked about one of our keys to the game, and we wrote about this at 97.3ESPN.com. My matchup to watch was the Eagles, Fletcher Cox and Benny Logan up against the interior of that Browns offensive line. And Josh Pawnell and Mary Kay Cabot both said on Friday's show that Cam Irving had problems snapping the football. It happened multiple times during training camp and in the preseason. I thought that safety was really a turning point of the game. And then following that safety, the Eagles defense, I thought, really picked it up. And you have a bunch of your Eagles defenders in that A and B range.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of what turned the game. I thought that was a huge turning point in the game. It was a 3-point game at the time, and then the Eagles get the 2 points from the safety and go down and score a touchdown on top of it. I really think at that point the game was for the most part over. You're right. They turned up their intensity. Look at Don Jones and what he was able to do in terms of field position. That helped this defense immensely.
And you gave him an A. You gave him an A, by the way. How many times does the punter get an A?
No, he definitely deserved it. What he did for those guys, putting them inside the 5 twice, inside the 23 times, and then he had a 72-yard pump that totally flipped the field, even though it was a touchback. amazing job by him. And, yeah, I expected Fletcher Cox to maybe have a little bit more of a bigger game, but the Browns were really cautious in the first half of making sure that Eagles front four did not get back there to RG3 too often. And, come the second half, I think they just got worn down. The Eagles' time of possession, being on the field, going down, getting the game up by more than 10 points. I just feel like the Eagles' defense, kind of all the rotations too, keep that in mind. Connor Barwin said more than one time that the way that Schwartz is rotating in those front four, they're going to be fresh later in the game. And that may have been part of the reason they were able to get back there a lot more frequently in the second half as well.
Yeah, Scott, you mentioned that because, and you actually write about Cox that he was getting double teamed a lot, but I think in the second half, all those double teams caught up to Cleveland because Graham and Barwin and even Curry, who got tackled on that pass interference call from Malcolm Jenkins. I think Curry's going to be a big factor in this defense, but Curry, Barwin, and Graham, they seemed like they were a step fresh. In fact, Barwin, he got that sack late in the game. He's lined up against Joe Thomas. It's not like he's against a slouch. That's one of the better tackles in the league, and he ran right past him.
Yeah, he did. I mean, all of those guys deserve a lot of credit, and I really do think that them being fresher later in the game is going to allow this team, especially when it has the lead, to shut the door on opponents, and that's going to be a key for them if they can get there. Vinny Curry, he just didn't show up too much in the stat line, but, man, he made a big impact. And you mentioned one play. The one that resonated with me was on Fletcher Cox's sack because Curry absolutely bull rushed and put his guy through the ground that allowed Cox to go right to RG3 and get him down. And, I think that's going to be fun to watch this year. And it might be one game, it might be this guy or that guy making the impact, and another game it's going to keep changing. And that's going to be the thing that these front four are going to enjoy the most, is seeing each other reap the benefits of their hard work and never knowing week to week which guy or which two guys might be the ones that the other team has to worry about. It's going to be hard to game plan against.
You gave Nolan Carroll a C. He had the one play where Pryor I just thought made just a really good catch, but Carroll might need to step up a little bit because it looks like McKelvin is going to be week to week. He's got a hamstring injury. One thing I want to get your opinion on, because it looked like Zach Ertz now could be out for potentially the Bears game, maybe a little longer. He's got a displaced rib up by his collarbone, and I find it to be intriguing that Burton was not active this week because of a calf injury. He might go into that Ertz role, and I'm really interested because by all accounts, he had a really good camp to see if they just swap Burton in for what Ertz did, because I thought Ertz was a big factor yesterday.
There's no doubt Ertz was a huge factor, and he became like a bit of a comfort blanket for Carson Wentz, if you will, because he kind of, he went to Zach Ertz in some big moments, knowing that he would make the catch, and he did. And I think what Burton does is he should help this team. He should help the coaching staff because he's there, not push Ertz too hard to get back. You don't want to jeopardize him and what he can do later in the season because you bring him back too soon. And with a bye week in week 4, they only have 2 more games till they hit that bye. So why rush him back? You could give him 3 weeks to really heal up and be back to 100%. With Burton being there as long as he's healthy himself, I was surprised, as you were, that he was a bit of a scratch and inactive for the first game too, because it seems like Pederson really likes him, and there's reason to be likable for him because he made a lot of plays in the preseason, as you said. So I would like to see them, and I think they'll do this, not rush Ertz back. And you're right, Burton's going to get some more opportunities. Brent Selleck will go back into being more of a receiving option for Wentz as well. I think that really, there's some positions where they're not deep, but fortunately at that one they are.
I know a guy that you got a chance to talk to after the game was Nelson Agholor. A lot of criticism about him. People thought he should have even played in that 4th preseason game. But I thought the most impressive thing, Scott, was on the touchdown pass, he beats Joe Hayden on that play. That's not an easy task, and that gives you a little bit of glimmer of maybe this guy's talent is more that he needs the confidence to allow that talent to come out.
It's always been in his head. That's the way I felt it's been since, last season and then in the preseason when he had some drops. It's always, to me, he's a head case. And I get the sense he knows it. He talked yesterday about how he's reading a book about happiness and stuff like that. When he's away from the field, he's trying to work on his mental game, it seems like. And, he's been working on his footwork to get off the line of scrimmage. And on that play in particular, he acknowledged that, how he was able to get free of Joe right from the beginning. And Carson Wentz talked about how, he noticed that Agholor had beaten Hayden right at the line of scrimmage and knew that he just had to put it in the right spot for Agholor, and he made the catch. And I think that one play is going to do potential. We can look back at that play a couple weeks from now. If Agholor is able to keep it going with some big reception, put up some yards, that could be a turning point for him in this second season. I don't want to put the cart before the horse because he's still got a long way to go. But, maybe he was able to put some of those mental issues in the past, and he's working on that. And he's able to do it. That's only going to help this offense that much more.
Scott Grayson has Grayson's grades. They're posted at 973ESPN.com after every Eagles game, and you can check them out right now on our website, 973ESPN.com. He's at sgrayson973. The Eagles in Chicago next week on Monday night, and Scott will have the grades on that. We'll talk to Scott on Tuesday next week with the recap of that one, but all is good. A lot of A's. It's easy when the teacher doesn't have to use that red pen so early. Yeah. It was a lot of fun to watch yesterday, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of that this season. Hey, real quick, did you get to see RG3 after the game at all? He just got put on the injured reserve list, I guess, because of that hit from Mills. But did you get a chance to see him at all? Because he looked like his arm was hanging on that last series. It really looked like I didn't see him in the tunnel at all anywhere after the game. However, I was watching that closely, and I don't think the TV broadcast did enough to show that. On that play where he hit Mills, it's not like Mills hit him. He hit Mills and ran into him. And, RG3 to me looked like he did that to himself. He is not nearly as thick as Wentz or anything like that, and he breaks easily, it looks. And Cleveland's in a bit of a bind now not having him. He shoved his shoulder into Mills' helmet, it looked like, and I think he did that injury more to himself than Mills did it to him. Yeah, Josh McCown will take over for Cleveland. More on that coming up. Scott Grayson, Grayson's grades at 973ESPN.com. Thanks, pal. All right, thanks a lot, Mike.